Behind the glamour of vintage cinema and the elegance of Hollywood's golden era lies a much darker story. While classic film and beloved movies defined a generation, some of its biggest stars were hiding explosive secrets. From mafia ties to shocking scandals and blacklists that ruined careers. The truth about these icons is far from the picture-perfect image they portrayed on screen. In this deep dive into classic Hollywood, we uncover the hidden corruption that stained the golden age of film, where power, silence, and cover-ups ruled behind the camera. In the glittering world of vintage Hollywood, George Raft's story stands out, not just for his roles in classic movies, but for the company he kept off-screen. Born in New York's Hell's Kitchen, Raft grew up around crime and violence, forging lifelong friendships with real-life gangsters, including Bugsy Siegel. These weren't distant acquaintances. Raft was deeply embedded, reportedly helping to mediate disputes between mob figures and using his Hollywood connections to grease the wheels of underground dealings. His links to gambling and shady backroom operations made studios nervous, even though he was never charged with a crime. Whispers followed him. Was he an actor playing gangsters or a gangster playing an actor? The golden era of cinema had little room for such ambiguity. Despite his early success in film, Raft's career took a nosedive, partly because he turned down roles that could have secured his legacy, like Casablanca. Financial troubles piled up, and the same dangerous circles from his youth became his safety net. To fans of classic film, Raft remains a mystery, a man who blurred the line between Hollywood illusion and underworld reality in a way few ever dared. Robert Taylor had the face of an all-American hero starring in beloved movies that defined the golden age of Hollywood. But behind that polished image was a man at the center of one of cinema's most controversial chapters. In 1947, as the nation turned paranoid about communism, Taylor testified before the House Un-American Activities Committee. He didn't just show up, he named names, contributing to the blacklisting of actors and writers who never worked again. Many believe Taylor did this to protect his own career, possibly under pressure from his studio, MGM, but others saw it differently. In their eyes, Taylor wasn't just an actor. He was a man who willingly turned on his colleagues when the heat got too close. Hollywood was built on loyalty and illusion, but Taylor's testimony shattered both for many fans. It's a painful reminder that even the brightest stars of classic cinema could make decisions that left lasting damage. While his film legacy endures, for some, the betrayal still stings. In a town where silence was often golden, Taylor's words helped fuel one of the darkest periods in vintage Hollywood history. If ever there was a star who matched his on-screen persona, it was Robert Mitchum. Known for his brooding roles in noir classics like Out of the Past, Mitchum carried that same rebellious charm off-screen, and it nearly ended his career. In 1948, Mitchum was arrested in a marijuana bust at a Hollywood party. At a time when the film industry was desperate to maintain a squeaky clean image, this wasn't just a scandal, it was front-page news across America. For a leading man to land behind bars during the golden era of cinema was unthinkable. Studios panicked. Public relations teams worked overtime to manage the fallout. But somehow Mitchum survived it. Some say the studio pulled strings. Others believe audiences simply couldn't resist his devil-may-care charisma. Whatever the reason, Mitchum bounced back. In fact, the arrest only enhanced his legend, turning him into a kind of anti-hero for a generation tired of Hollywood's perfect facades. To this day, Mitchum remains a symbol of classic Hollywood's darker edge, a reminder that beneath the glamour of vintage film, some stars were living lives as wild as the roles they played. Edward G. Robinson was one of the most respected faces of vintage cinema, famously portraying tough-talking gangsters in films that helped define Hollywood's golden era. But when political winds shifted in the late 1940s, Robinson found himself under suspicion, not for a crime, but for his political leanings. Despite once speaking out against communism, his past involvement with progressive organizations drew attention from the House Un-American Activities Committee. He wasn't blacklisted, but the damage was done. Roles grew scarce, rumors swirled, his on-screen identity as a gangster blurred with off-screen accusations of political deviance. Making things worse were whispers that he might have had real connections to organized crime, though nothing was ever proven. It's more likely that audiences, unable to separate the actor from his characters, let fiction bleed into reality. In the world of classic film, Robinson's fall was quiet but sharp. One moment he was a cornerstone of golden-era cinema. The next, he was a man shadowed by suspicion. His story is a reminder that in mid-century Hollywood, a whisper was sometimes more dangerous than a scandal. Carl Alfalfa Switzer, the spiky-haired troublemaker from The Little Rascals, was once one of the most recognizable faces in American film. But the golden glow of Hollywood doesn't shine forever, and for Switzer, it faded far too soon. As he aged, the roles stopped coming. The charm that lit up classic movies didn't translate into adult stardom. Desperate for money, Switzer found himself spiraling. He picked up odd jobs and got involved in schemes that raised eyebrows, like allegedly stealing dogs, then returning them for reward money. Bar fights, petty theft, and whispered scams became part of his life. The downward slide ended in tragedy. In 1959, during a heated argument over a small debt, Switzer was shot and killed. He was just 31. Some say it was self-defense. Others believe it never should have come to that. His story is one of Hollywood's saddest tales, of a child star chewed up by the very system that once celebrated him. In the classic film world, Switzer's tale stands as a haunting reminder that fame, especially in vintage Hollywood, could vanish as quickly as it came. Wallace Beery was one of the most bankable stars of vintage Hollywood. With a career spanning silent film and the talkies, he embodied the rough but lovable everyman audiences adored. But behind the scenes, his reputation was anything but charming. He was known as difficult, arrogant, and even cruel, especially to younger co-stars. The most chilling allegation tied to Beery revolves around the mysterious death of comedian Ted Healy in 1937. Healy, who helped create the Three Stooges, died shortly after a violent altercation outside a Hollywood nightclub. Reports suggest Beery, along with a film executive and a known gangster, may have been involved in the beating. Officially, Healy's death was blamed on kidney failure, but rumors of a cover-up quickly spread. MGM, fearing scandal during cinema's golden era, allegedly sent Beery overseas while paying off witnesses and manipulating police reports. No charges were ever filed, but the whispers never went away. Classic film fans remember Beery's performances, but those who worked with him remembered a bully protected by studio power. In the world of Hollywood movies, image was everything, and for Beery, the studios were willing to do whatever it took to keep us clean. Frank Sinatra's voice defined an era, and his presence lit up both the music and classic film industries. But for all the glamour surrounding Old Blue Eyes, his off-screen connections painted a far murkier picture. Throughout his career, Sinatra was dogged by allegations of close ties to organized crime, including mobsters like Sam Giancana and Lucky Luciano. FBI files tracked his movements for decades. Reports suggested Sinatra helped these figures secure business deals and even political favors, especially in Las Vegas, where crime and cinema often intersected. Some believed he used his influence in Hollywood and beyond to bridge the worlds of politics, movies, and the mob. His friendships with powerful figures, including President John F. Kennedy, only deepened the mystery. Whispers grew louder that Sinatra helped orchestrate behind-the-scenes meetings between the administration and crime families. But when Robert Kennedy reportedly warned his brother to cut ties, Sinatra felt cast aside, left out of the very power circles he helped build. Sinatra always denied wrongdoing, but in the golden age of Hollywood, where fame met power, his story reflects how easily glamour can blend with danger. For many fans of vintage cinema, Sinatra remains an icon, but one with shadows that never fully disappeared. Clark Gable was Hollywood royalty, the king of classic cinema. With his rugged charm and box office appeal, he was the kind of leading man who defined the golden era of film. But even a king had secrets, and for Gable, one alleged incident has haunted his legacy for decades. The rumor? That Gable struck and possibly killed a pedestrian while driving, only to have the scandal erased by MGM's powerful executives. It said they paid off police, silenced witnesses, and kept his name far from the headlines, all to protect their most profitable star. Though there's no official record, the mere endurance of the rumor speaks volumes. At the time, studios often went to extreme lengths to protect their top talent, managing not only their careers, but their entire public lives. Gable, with his charm and status, was no exception. Beyond this dark rumor, Gable was known for drinking, affairs, and a lifestyle that could have destroyed a lesser actor's career. But the machine behind vintage Hollywood knew how to clean up any mess. especially for a man who was cinema's golden boy. In a world where image was everything, Gable's story shows just how far Hollywood would go to protect its legends. Adolphe Menjou was the very picture of vintage Hollywood elegance, polished, charming, and always dressed to the nines. But behind the sophisticated film roles was a man deeply entangled in one of cinema's most divisive periods. During the height of the Red Scare, Menjou didn't just support the House Un-American Activities Committee, he embraced it. While some actors testified reluctantly, Menjou was vocal and unrepentant. As a member of the Hollywood Anti-Communist League, he actively helped identify suspected communists in the film industry. His actions directly contributed to the blacklist, ending careers of writers, actors, and directors based more on suspicion than fact. For some Americans in the post-war era, Menjou was a patriot defending democracy. But to others, especially within classic cinema circles, he was seen as a betrayer, choosing political loyalty over human decency. His support of Senator Joseph McCarthy's efforts made him a hero to a few and a pariah to many. In the polished world of golden-era Hollywood, Menjou's story reminds us how personal politics could tear through even the most glamorous studios. Movies may have offered escapism, but behind the scenes, the stakes were real, and reputations were ruined not by scandal, but by ideology. The golden era of Hollywood gave us unforgettable movies and timeless stars, but beneath the surface of classic cinema, the reality was far more complex. From hidden scandals to powerful cover-ups, vintage film legends lived lives that were anything but picture perfect. These stories remind us that even in Hollywood's most glamorous age, fame often came at a steep price.